Hi everyone, Savannah here, and today we're going to draw the sparkler image. If you want to follow along, I have free brushes linked in my description down below, as well as the color palette and template that I use for this drawing. Let's start! The first thing we're going to do is pick that base background color, so go into your layers, select background color, and we're going to do this dark grayish blue green color as the main color, and then we'll build up more lighter colors on top of that. So we go back into your layers, grab a new layer, bring it below the outline, and we're going to use our square blend brush with that lighter grayish yellow green color and just start adding in color at the bottom here, and we'll build up on this just to get that background a little bit more color. Now that we have a little bit more color, let's go ahead and work on our character here. So add a new layer, and we're going to do one of these blue colors. I'm going to pick this dark grayish blue green color and start outlining the shape of that jacket. We're going to use our circle brush for this. So go ahead and start outlining. We'll fill it in and then we'll add details in a second. And I like to turn the outline layer off when I fill in, just so I can make sure that the shape is looking how I want it to look. I can tweak anything here and then also making sure that it is filled. You can typically fill shapes when you drag that color and drop it into the shape that you have outlined. However, the way my brushes work, it doesn't fill it quite as nicely as it would because the brush is a little bit more jaggedy. So there's a couple spots where you see more of that background popping through. So I do it more like this. Now we're going to keep building up this character, so go ahead and underneath of that jacket layer, add a new layer. I'm going to grab one of these more orangey skin tone colors. We're going to use that for the face, for the hands, and for the legs of this character. So we'll just grab one of these colors and start filling it in, similar to how we did the jacket. And we'll just keep the skin tones on the same layer. They don't need to be separated out. So we'll just do all of the hands and the legs and the head on one layer. Now I am going to alpha lock some of these layers. We'll add details to them in a second. Let's add a new layer and work on the hair. We'll add some color and depth to this again in a second, but we're just kind of blocking these larger shapes in first. It makes it a little bit easier to see visually where we need to add highlights and lowlights. So we'll start with bigger shapes first. Now let's go ahead and add a new layer above the skin tone layer, and we're going to block in the shorts. And now we'll just fill in the shoes. You can keep these on the same layer that you did the shorts since they don't overlap. We shouldn't have any issues when we're starting to color in the shadows and highlights and things like that. So keep it on the same layer and then just start blocking out the shoe shape and filling it in. Now we're going to add one more new layer. This is going to be for the sparkler itself. So bring that size of that brush down. We're going to use that very dark brown color here for the handle part. We'll lighten it up here in a second with some highlights and shadows, but for now we're going to use that very dark brown color, and then we'll add the details of that sparkler. Grab that bright yellow color and we're going to add the sparkler details here. We also are going to do this on a new layer, so go ahead and add a new layer and just start tracing the lines here. Now add a new layer, grab that light yellow, almost white color, and we're going to add just a little circle here in the middle and then add more lines. Again, we're just building up the details here. Now we're going to add details to the handle here. Make sure it's set to alpha lock so that we're not going outside the lines. And then we're going to add some of this orangish color using that circle blend brush. So grab one of the oranges, it can be any of the ones that are in the color palette, and start to lightly add in some of that orange color here so it looks like it is lit from that sparkler. And then we're going to do a Gaussian blur on that lighter yellow color as well as that darker yellow. I went a little less on that darker yellow because I want a little more definition, but we're going to do Gaussian blur on both. While still being on that circle blend brush, grab that darker yellow and just kind of very lightly do that yellow outline layer there, and then another Gaussian blur on it. It's going to make it glow a lot more. And then we're going to grab that light yellow again and add a little bit more of those lines back in because we did blur them out a little bit more. We lost some of that definition. So we'll just grab that light yellow, almost white color and add some lines here and there. And same thing with that yellow color, that darker yellow color. We're going to add some lines here as well. And I'm adding that same darker yellow to this handle here, especially where that light is touching because it's going to be very bright there. So I wanted to add that a little bit more into that area. And then same thing with this very white yellow color. I'm adding it just to the very center. Now I'm going to take that same white and add a little bit more. I feel like it needs some more areas where it's kind of jetting off. And so I'm just adding a little bit more to this layer here. Very small brush, so it's almost like it's fading as it's going off. We're going to do that with the yellow and that lighter yellow color and just adding a few spots here and there. Now I'm going to do a new layer above both of these. I'm going to grab this orange color and I'm just going to add some specks that are kind of flying off of this sparkler here. So just add them here and there. You don't have to add them if you don't want to. I just wanted to add a little bit. I'm doing them with the orange because they're going to be darker, fading out as they kind of disappear. So that's why I'm adding a little bit more orange here. And then I did duplicate this layer, I alpha locked it, and I'm going to pick that yellow color again. And I'm going to fill this layer. So you just click on the layer, click fill layer, and now we have yellow. And then I'm going to make sure alpha lock is turned off and do a Gaussian blur on that. I'm also going to do a Gaussian blur on that orange layer. So again, make sure nothing is set to alpha lock and just get it to the blur that you like for it. Then we're going to offset it a little bit from that yellow. And now I'm just going to click onto the layer and turn the opacity down on both of them. I don't think they can be as bright and vibrant as the sparkler itself because they're kind of those pieces that are offshooting and fading off into the distance. So I just turned the opacity down on those. Now we're going to work on the hair. So we'll go ahead and alpha lock that layer, grab that brown, it's a kind of an orangish color, and start adding lines to the hair here, following the shape of where the hair is falling. As you move more to the right, it is going to be brighter because of that sparkler. It's going to be darker more to the left because that's opposite area of where that sparkler is hitting. So we will build this up with these orangish colors. We'll add in some lighter colors as well. With this brush, the circle blend brush, it is pressure sensitive, so you can press a little bit harder on the right side. It'll make this kind of brown orange color pop more, and then you can do lighter presses on the left to kind of blend it into that darker area. And now as I'm filling this in, the hair does look a little too blocky for my liking. So you can undo the alpha lock or turn the alpha lock layer off, add in some of these brush strokes here to make it look a little bit more natural. Again, it looked a little too blocky for me, so I'm just going in with that brush, that circle blend brush, still using that orangey color and just adding in some more spots here and there so it looks a little more natural. And then what we're just doing is building up the colors here. So I went back to that darker brown color. I'm just building up between that darker brown and that mid-tone orange-ish brown color. I'll add in a lighter color here as well. But if you get your hair done faster than I do in this portion, feel free to jump ahead in the video. But I'm just going to work on adding in the details here to the hair. Now we're going to work on the jacket, so go ahead and switch over to that layer. We're going to still use the circle blend brush. I do kind of block out some of the larger shapes and then blend in some of the other areas as well. So if you want to block out the colors and then blend afterwards, you can do that as well. This is just kind of how I've been doing it. So again, the harder you press on that Apple Pencil with this blend brush, the more it's going to fill in that color. The lighter you press, the more it's going to blend it out with the bottom color. So just keep that in mind if you are using that circle blend brush. Now I do grab an even darker color here based off of the colors that we're using. That's so that I can add in some even darker tones here, especially where the light's not going to be touching. I want to emphasize that is much darker than these other areas. So I'm just going in and adding those dark areas to this jacket. And I just pick colors that have blended out between the colors I've laid down. So to do that, hold your finger down on the color you want to use. It will pick it in the color picker, and then you can use that to kind of blend out a little bit more seamlessly. And I'm just using a lot of the colors that are already here to blend them out a little bit more. So again, grabbing specific colors on the jacket that you want to blend out will help you blend it more seamlessly. And I'm just going to continue to do this, and then we will add highlights to the jacket as well, but I'm just kind of blending out between this very dark, almost black color, this mid-tone color, and this lighter color. I'm just going to keep blending it out. Now, unfortunately, my video did cut out here, so you're missing a big portion of how I went from that previous more blocky stage to this. I added in some lighter colors. As you can see here, I added in a lighter kind of the highlight area, and I just really kept working on blending out between that darker and lighter, adding in some more of that mid-tone color if I needed to, and just kept blending out. So that's how I got to this point. A lot of this is just blending between these colors. You'll see that I'll kind of get a portion where it's a little bit lighter and then I'm not really liking it, so I'll add in some more mid-tone and then I end up adding in more lightness. I'm just working these layers until it looks how I want it to look, how the reflection I want it to look on the jacket, where the shadows hit, things like that. So again, just keep working on this portion until it looks how you want it to look for your jacket. If you finish before I do, you can definitely move on to the next stage, but I'm just kind of adding in more details here and building up on that layer. And I ended up making the jacket a little bit darker. I thought it was a little too bright, especially on that left part here, because the light is not necessarily going to touch that as much. And so I wanted to darken it to make it not so bright. And this is just something, again, you're going to be building up on these layers. As you're drawing out your image, you'll see, okay, where's that light hitting? How does that look? Does it look realistic how it would in real life? And if not, you can keep building up on these layers as I'm doing here. But now that I have the jacket where I like it, we're going to work on the rest of the body here, the legs. We'll do the head and the hands here, just adding in this darker color. Again, noting that the light is going to be hitting from the right side and working our way to the left will be darker. Now we'll just work on adding details to the hand here, again using that darker brown color and that square blend brush. We're just going to add some details to the hand. Not too many, we don't have to add a lot of details here. This is just more of like a simplistic drawing of a person in the sparkler, so we don't need to be too complex with this. And we are adding highlight because again, this hand is very close to where the sparkler is, so there's going to be a lot of reflection for this hand. So we want a little bit of highlight here, and then we'll blend it out a little bit more so it's not so bright. And we are going to add a little bit of that lighter color to the face as well because again, it is closer to the sparkler, so there's going to have that little bit of glow to that face. And we'll do it with the legs as well, just on this right side to make it a little bit lighter because of the glow from the sparkler. Now we're going to work on the shorts. We're going to grab one of those brownish orange colors and just start building up the layers here. Again, working left to right. It's going to be darker brown on the left side and it's going to be lighter on the right side. So just keep that in mind as you're filling in the color here. Now the other areas I feel like got a little bit more highlight and I wanted to add some more highlight back into the jacket. So I'm just going to add a little bit more here with a lighter blue color just to make it pop a little bit more. And then same thing, the shadow I feel like is not as pronounced on this left side, so I'm just adding some lines here, some darker areas just to make it pop a little bit more. I feel like it's starting to blend a little bit, make not so contrasty. I want it to be a little bit more higher contrast, so that's why I'm adding in some darker colors back into the jacket as well. Okay, now that's looking a little bit better to me. I'm gonna go work on the shoes and we're gonna grab this brown color here and start building up that color again, working from left to right. The left is gonna be much darker than the right area. And then keeping in mind of how the shape of the shoe goes. So the rounded part up on top is gonna be more light and then the rounded part on the bottom is gonna be darker. And just keep blending it between these colors. Same thing as we've been doing with every other shape that we've been working on today. You just want to keep blending it until it gets to how you want it to look for this portion. And now our character is complete. We're going to add some more plants and some more, a little more detail to the background area. So let's go ahead and go onto that ground layer, grab this dark blue green color, and let's go ahead and use a circle brush for this. Again, we're going to add some plants here. It doesn't have to be perfect, just add some details here. I'm just doing some lines and some sketches here just to get it to look plant-like. We'll add details here in a second with highlights and some shadow areas as well. And then using the circle blend brush and that same green color, we're going to use light presses and blend those plants into the ground a little bit so it looks like they're naturally growing out of the ground. And just to give more color dimension to the ground here, I'm not doing hard presses. As you can see, there's not that much green color here. I will do hard presses for the shadow area, but other than that, I'm just kind of doing light touches. I still want that lighter color to be the dominant color here for the ground. So I'm not doing too heavy unless it's in the shadow area. And now I'm just going to keep blending out between that green and that kind of tan color just until the ground is looking how I want it. Again, making sure that you're adding in some shadow to where the kid is standing. It's going to be darker from that sparkler, so just building up that shadow here a little bit layer by layer. And I am adding a little bit of yellow here on top as well because again, the sparkler glow is giving a little bit of a yellow glow. So I wanted to add that to the foreground as well where it would be kind of touching. And I added a little bit of that orange as well because there's that orange undertone from the sparkler. So I wanted to add in some of that yellow and that orange to this ground just to brighten it up a little bit where that glow would be from the sparkler. And I'm just going to add some short little lines here on the surface. I just want to add some more character to the ground, and so I'm doing that to the right and left side. You don't have to do this if you don't want, if you want it to be more blended like it is currently, but I just want to add a little bit more dimension to the ground. Now we're going to do the plants. Make sure that you have your layers set to alpha lock, and then we're going to add some lightness to the right side here. Again, using that circle blend brush, you can grab one of the lighter yellow colors. You can do the darker yellow color, any color that you want to do, and we're just going to add some brighter colors here. And I am going to add some brown as well. I want it to be a little bit more varied in coloring, and so I didn't want everything to be just these green and yellow. So I'm adding a little bit of brown here just to give it a little bit more dimension. You can keep it green if you want. I just wanted some other color variations, and we're just going to keep blending out. And then I pulled in some more of that green. So I'm just going to keep building up these plants here, adding some darker tones again. The light's coming from the right, so anything to the left is going to be in the shadow. So I'm trying to play off of that using this green. I'll keep building up between the green, the brown, and this lighter yellow color to really emphasize the shadows for each of the plants, as well as where the highlights would be hitting. And now let's do a new layer, bring it below the plant layer, and then we're going to work on adding some definition to this background. Use that square blend brush. I have it set to this brownish color, and I'm just going to add in some colors here, making sure that I keep kind of where the sparkler is lighter and work my way out to make it darker. And you don't have to be perfect with these. I'm just kind of doing squiggly kind of lines with the square brush just to keep blending it out a little bit. So it doesn't have to be perfect, just blend it out to how you like it for that background. So I'm just kind of going again where I think the highlights are going to be, the lowlights are going to be for this background, that where that sparkler is going to be a little bit brighter, and then as you go out further from that, it's going to be darker. And you'll notice I did do more of an orangey brown area around the sparkler here. I did that because it's going to be more orange tinted because of the color of the light source. And so that's why as I go further out, it's more of that bluish gray color and not this orange color, just because that's really emphasizing that this is the yellow light area. And with that, our sparkler is complete. Thank you so much for sketching along with me today. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. You can also subscribe to see future videos that I'll be dropping. I do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday around 4 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you in the next video.